Ladies and gentlemen, you have this morning an inspiring keynote speech, Dr. Ananda W.P. Guruge. In according to him, I was hearing very carefully 45 minutes of his presentation. Buddha himself, he struggled to establish social justice, democracy and freedom, and to open doors for education for all. His teachings and master plan for human development is still valid even after 25 centuries. This is what I understood his keynote speech and this celebration of 2550th anniversary at UNESCO. Thank you very much, Dr. Guruge, once again. So we have to go to next item. We are going to have a second panel of this series of activities this morning. It is a dialogue among different traditions. So we have invited several eminent specialists to address this morning how we can work together, how we can live together, how we can find out the way to eliminate mistrust and intolerance. We are going to find out way for the peace. So for this second session for the panel, it is my great honor to invite Venerable Shi Wushin, Vice President, Pioland College from Australia, Can you put the table, put the name there, please. And I will call upon Monsignor Francisco Follow, Permanent Observer of the Holy See to UNESCO. I call upon Rabbi Uri Temal, Chairman of Council of Progressive Rabbi for Australia and New Zealand. I call upon Mr. Sid Ahmad Bagali, Honorable Member of the ICOM. And the last, Dr. Yudesh, President, Forever Joy Learning Institute, Malaysia. I would like to welcome all these panelists to this morning session, and also I would like to invite Dr. Ananda Guruge to be moderator of this session. Dr. Ananda Guruge, please, you can conduct this session, please.
Venerable members of the Sangha and the clergy, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to be the moderator this morning. After what I said, I think could be easily an opening message for the panel, and we have such distinguished members, and I know that they have 1.5 hours and 5 members, and all know their mathematics. So I'm not going to waste my time repeating that they should only speak for so many minutes, and I leave it to your kindness to see that all speeches are covered by 11:30. May I, with great pleasure, call upon Venerable Shivu Shin, the Vice President of the Pure Land Learning College of Australia, to be the opening speaker.
啊，诸位法师、诸位大德啊，大家好，阿弥陀佛。今天我们在这里要讨论的这个主题是宗教在世界和平的角色。那么，和平这2个字，无论在世界各地，千万年来，是每一个人所向往的、所希求的，也是大家共同所努力的。但是为什么到今天还不能落实？而且不但现在这个社会没有和平，反而使我们越来越感觉到这个世间动乱频繁，危机重重，甚至有一些敏感的人，似乎都感觉到，好像世界末日啊越来越接近。那么这种言论、这种感觉，绝对不是空穴来风，一定有它的原因。所以今天我们要得到和平，一定要先把障碍和平的因素啊，把它找出来，然后加以研究，想办法把这个因素把它消除，我们理想的目标才能够真正的实现。我们中国古圣先贤、诸佛菩萨，他们教化众生啊，习惯上是先把果报提出来，然后呢，再加以说明啊这个因缘。为什么呢？因为世间众生对于果报啊，他比较有明显的感受，往往啊，对于这个造因，他会疏忽掉。所以佛知道啊，众生的习性，他说法总是啊，先说果报，再说因缘。譬如佛讲四圣谛，苦集灭道。你看这个苦集啊，苦就是果报，集呢是苦的因，也就是烦恼。因此呢，佛先说这个果，这个苦难，然后呢再说明啊是什么原因造成的。而出世间法里面讲到灭地跟道地啊，就是灭道。这个灭地啊，它也是果报。灭就是灭烦恼，灭生死， 我们常讲啊，烦恼生死断了，这个就是果报。是什么原因可以得到呢？也就是道地，也就是要修道。如果不修道，就没有办法得到这个殊胜的果报。那么和平这两个字也不例外，和是果报。所以呢，我们今天要如何才能够得到和平？首先呢，我们要知道，这个和平就是人跟人之间能够和睦相处，族群跟族群之间，宗教跟宗教之间都能够和睦相处，乃至于国家跟国家，所有的一切众生都能够和睦相处，彼此的互相尊重、互相敬爱、互相合作，这就是一个果报。这种果报呢，是让我们向往的，是让我们觉得很幸福、很美满的果报。那么，要什么样的原因才能够落实这个果报呢？也就是我们自己要跟一切众生，不分族群，不分宗教，不分国土，大家都能够和睦相处。所以这个因就在于能够平等的对待，所以和是果，平呢是因。如果我们对于一切人事物不能够平等，那这个和字就不能够落实了。所以首先呢，一定要先建立在平等的基础上。曾经有一个人他给我们讲到一件事情。他说他以前是在天主教教堂里面听到呢，这个教会里面的人讲说信天主的人将来升到天堂是坐最好的位置。如果信基督教呢，就差一点。那如果是信其他宗教那就没位置可以坐了。所以呢，我们大家想想，天堂可不可以去呢？天堂还是不和没有和平为什么呢？不平等那不平等就不会有和睦相处了，那跟我们人间就差不多了。所以我们相信讲这种话的人对他自己的教义绝对没有搞清楚。我们对天主教的教义、对基督教的教义没有深入研究。可是我们常常听到他们在介绍基督天主的时候讲到一句话，所谓的神爱世人。这个教会常常会挂这个招牌霓虹灯也常常有这个字神爱世人。那么这一句话呢，就表现出呢，神是平等的。所以我的老师净空老和尚，他遇到一些教会的长老传教师们，跟他们接触的时候就曾经跟这些传教士们讲，他说神爱我为什么呢？因为我是世人因为他并没有说神爱基督徒爱天主教徒他没有这么说他说神爱世人，所以神的心是平等的。换句话说呢，天堂是和睦的所以我们可以到上帝那里去可是呢，如果这个基督教徒、天主教徒他心不平等，那心不平等跟神的心不一样神的心是平等的，不相应的，而我的心是平等的，所以我可以去基督教徒他去不了因为心不平等跟上帝就不相应了。所以心心相应就可以去天堂跟上帝就可以在一起了所以在这个地方我们看看这个讲法才是真正的合理所以我们懂得一切的宗教都是仁慈博爱的我们佛法里面也讲大慈大悲所以这个地方为什么慈悲要讲大呢？ 这个大呢，就是平等，它没有附带条件，如果有附带条件呢，那就不是大了，那就不平等了。所以无条件的才是真正的平等，这个就是佛菩萨的慈悲。所以佛法里面也讲得很清楚，一切众生本来成佛，这就是平等。又明白告诉我们，生佛平等。你看看呢，他没有讲佛生平等他把众生摆在前面呢，生佛平等生是众生把众生提在最上面佛还摆下面换句话说呢，众生跟佛是平等的而且佛法讲到性相一如理事不二，这就是平等讲到极点。过去呢，我们曾经在中国大陆看到钦州出土的一些佛像，里面呢有毗卢遮那佛披的一个袈裟那么这个袈裟里面给我们显示出来让我们感受到袈裟真正的意思我们出家人搭了这个衣，披了这个袈裟在佛经里面记载这是佛陀在世的时候他的生活非常简单吃饭呢去托钵人家供养，这个很容易但是衣服就不容易了那么衣服要怎么得到呢？佛法里面讲叫粪扫衣，也就是一般人穿的那个衣服旧了破了不要了丢掉了那么出家人把这些衣服捡回来把好的部分裁下来然后呢一块一块把它拼起来缝制成一件衣服当然了这里面的质料颜色都不一样，很难看，所以把它染一染叫做染色衣染成这个杂色混色的这样的这个衣服就像我们现在穿的这种衣服那么现在我们披的这个袈裟呢，是纪念当年释迦牟尼佛僧团里面的这种生活方式让我们常常想到物力维艰要能够懂得惜福，懂得节俭可是呢更深的意思我们不知道了你想想看，这里面呢一格一格的，这个袈裟上是一格一格的剪裁的整整齐齐大小也一样为什么当时呢不大块的小块的缝在一起呢要把它剪成一样大呢一样大，这是代表什么意思呢？原来它是别有用意的这个意思呢就在那个钦州的毗卢遮那佛的袈裟上面我们看到了，我们明白了，它代表了平等，每一个格子都一样大，代表平等而且它有很多的格子，代表什么呢？代表很多的不同的族群现在我们讲不同的国家不同的宗教，不同的文化通通合而为一这就是我们今天所谓的多元文化，所以这个意思非常好然后呢这个袈裟上面每一格都有画画的是什么呢？画的是十法界就是我们佛法里面讲有10个法界一切众生上面佛菩萨，下面声闻缘觉最下面是地狱所以一看原来这是讲十法界这个格子就是代表十法界，也就是我们今天讲不同的族群不同的宗教不同的文化不同的国土合而为一所以佛经上常讲叫做十方三世佛共同一法身，就在这个衣服上我们看到了，我们才晓得这个意思存在所以可见得佛法呢是真正高度的艺术教学。所以这个衣服搭起来的时候我们就要想到我们的心要平等，心要清净如果有分别有执着那就错了所以这不用人教的没有人跟你讲的你搭这个衣服的时候你就体会到了所以佛法的学习是永远没有止境的因此 我们今天要知道，佛的世界是和睦的，尤其我们看《华严经》上，毗卢遮那佛的华藏世界，净土经典里面所讲的西方极乐世界，你看那个世界为什么能够和睦相处呢？我们在今天所说的华藏世界、极乐世界就是今天所谓的是一个多元文化的世界。这在《华严经》上，世尊给我们说明了。你看《华严经》上讲华藏世界有270多个不同的族群、不同的国土，那么大家都能够和睦相处，都能够相亲相爱，好像呢自己的兄弟姐妹一样。而西方极乐世界呢，那更不必说了，它是接引十方世界无量无边诸佛刹土里面的众生，只要你有这个愿望，你有这个需求，你都可以去。现在我们讲移民，从娑婆世界移民到西方极乐世界去。所以从这个地方你就可以知道，西方极乐世界的居民是非常复杂的，十方世界来的，无量无边的族群来的，不同文化，不同生活习惯来的，信仰的宗教也往往不一样但是都能够往生，阿弥陀佛很慈悲，通通都接引，那么接引到西方极乐世界呢，每一个人相处都能够非常和睦，非常和谐，这个就是西方极乐世界，所以呢，它就是建立在一个平等对待的基础上，所以我们说西方极乐世界是一个平等的法界，到那个地方呢，大家呢身相享受一切道力一切神通福报，通通都平等，这个就是佛的世界。所以由此可知，我们今天要希求这个社会的安定，人跟人之间能够和睦相处，要能够互相的平等的对待，我们要从哪里做起呢？一定要先从我们自己本身做起，也就是我们自己一定要跟一切众生平等的来对待，才能够真正做到和睦相处。如果我们自己觉得我比别人高，我比别人好，别人都不如我，那这个心就不平了，这个不但是伤害了自己，也伤害别人。怎么说有这种心会伤害自己呢？你比如说我们讲念佛的人，这个念佛的人有这种高下不平等的心有这种共高我慢的心这就是烦恼，所以呢，害自己不能往生了。信天主教的如果有这种念头，他就不能够升天堂刚刚不是说要平等才能够升天堂吗？所以你就晓得这个事情的严重性那么如果有人说呢，这个极乐世界这个天堂太渺茫了，我又没看见那我们讲近一点的今天如果我们有高下心，我们就会破坏这个社会的和谐我们就会障碍了世界的和平，所以这个过失是非常严重的为什么世界不能和平呢？是因为我造成的要从我这个地方来改进所以明白这个道理我们今天要能够改过自新从今天开始要以平等心来对待一切众生换句话说，这么一来呢，就能够给社会带来和谐，给这个世界带来和平，这个贡献太伟大了所以你看看呢，都在我们一念之间所以佛法里面讲觉迷真正觉悟的人，他懂得，他会以真诚心、以清净心去待人以平等心、以慈悲心来对待一切众生不但是对人如此对所有的动物也是如此乃至于对一切天地鬼神也是如此由此可知我们这样的心行才能够创造和平的基础不仅是世间和平能够落实，整个宇宙的和平也是从这个地方奠定基础，我们何乐而不为呢？ 所以诸佛菩萨的用心呢是真诚心，绝对不会欺骗人啊。所以我们今天呢要学习佛菩萨啊，我们绝不欺骗别人。那换句话说，别人如果诽谤我们啊，别人如果陷害我们呢，我们也绝对不可以去诽谤别人，也绝对不能够有一丝一毫报复的心、报复的念头，这样就能够成就自己的纯善纯净啊。所以我们中国人有一句话，所谓吃亏的人有福报啊，吃亏是福啊。所以人啊，如果不肯吃亏，那这个福报就没有了，不知道从哪里来了啊。但是你只要肯吃亏，福报就会来啊。中国人又讲一句话叫做难得糊涂啊，这些呢都是真理啊，都是教我们真正如何帮助自己，也帮助这个世界能够达到和平的一个方法啊。那么我们中国古圣先贤的教诲很多啊，你看有儒家的教学，还有道家的教学啊。那么佛家呢，他这个教学呢更圆满啊。佛教是从印度完全迁移到中国来啊。那么最近呢才从中国再转到印度转回印度啊。那么再看看西方所有的宗教，你看他们经典里面所记载的这些神圣的教诲啊，对于世间的一切众生他们都有一个共同的理念，都是希望一切众生能够和睦相处，能够互相的尊重，互相的敬爱，互助合作啊，共同来过一个幸福美满的人生。所以我们看看，不仅是佛教，所有的宗教都不例外啊。我们不要着重在形式上，不要只着重在这个仪轨上啊。如果是着重在这个仪轨形式上，对这个宗教的教学疏忽了，那就把这个神圣的多元文化的教育就变成宗教了啊。所以我们要知道，宗教的教育是神圣的教育，是道德的教育啊。尤其你看世间没有一个宗教不讲孝心，不讲尊师的啊。每一个宗教都讲孝亲尊师啊。所以宗教都是道德的教育，这就是我们现在所谓的社会所谓多元文化的教育。每一个宗教都是如此。所以今天呢，如果把这个宗教的教育舍弃掉了，只搞这个形式，只搞这个仪式那就会变成迷信啊。比如说我们佛教里头啊，我们一般人看到佛就要礼拜啊，就要顶礼啊。为什么一定要拜呢？不拜行不行呢？这个呢，道理在哪里？我们一定要把它搞清楚啊。过去呢，我们师父净空法师他刚学佛的时候学佛前3年他不拜佛那个时候他跟着一位张家大师这是佛门里面的一位大善知识跟他3年，从来没拜过他。为什么呢？因为我们师父他说他不懂得为什么要拜佛，他就不会拜，他一定要把道理搞清楚、搞明白，他才肯拜所以呢，我们师父年轻的时候很不容易得度哪有像现在的年轻人说拜就拜叫他磕头他就磕头，很乖很听话，很难得但是我们师父呢，他没有搞清楚他不会做的所以我们师父觉得人跟人之间有恭敬心就好了而且这个恭敬心呢，比那个外面做的那个形式磕头作揖这个还重要所以有这个心才重要。为什么一定要有这个形式呢？人跟人之间，尤其现代人见面呢，鞠个躬敬个礼这就可以了。所以呢我们师父进到佛的大殿，见到佛像，他也3鞠躬，他也没有拜他觉得3鞠躬就是最敬礼，何必要趴在地上拜所以趴在地上拜呢，这种仪式那是满清以前的这种仪式，这种规矩不是现代人的。但是到后来呢，我们师父呢明白了道理之后他真正拜下去了为什么？因为拜佛是一种教学以前呢不懂，现在知道 拜佛啊，它的目的啊，就是要对治我们烦恼的习气，啊，以我们最尊贵的头顶来礼拜佛的脚，折服我们的傲慢心呢。所以懂了之后啊，知道这是一种修行的方法，所以你就心甘情愿、很欢喜、很高兴的去礼拜了，啊，所以啊，我们要知道，我们今天呢，对佛的礼敬，要把它扩展到对一切众生的礼敬，把一切众生呢，都把它当作佛来看待，自己很谦卑来尊重别人，所以明白之后啊，才能够欢欢喜喜的拜下去，啊，所以这个道理不搞清楚不行啊。没有法子去做啊，所以一点迷信都没有，啊，所以任何问题啊都会有一个明确的解答，啊，乃至于呢，我们今天看到的佛家的造像，啊，我们供养的这些佛像，通通都是表法的，都是一种教学的工具。很可惜，我们一般人啊，都把它当作神明啊来看待，这就是完全错误的，啊，你看佛的相貌。为什么要雕塑这么的庄严？啊，这是什么呢？就是心正啊，佛的心正，啊，心正相貌当然就端正了。所以今天呢，我们看到佛的这个相貌这么庄严，这么端正啊，我们心也会正，也会学习啊，所以呢，我们的行为也会跟着端正。所以它代表的意义啊，很深很深。让我们呢一看到就知道我们应该要怎么去学习，所以用这些艺术品啊来提醒我们，啊，如果说有一个人天天来提醒啊，那你会觉得很烦啊，受不了啊。可是呢，用这种照相的艺术啊，照得很庄严、很好看啊，让我们一看呢就能够明白这个佛法的教学的道理啊。所以这些艺术品啊，我们又能够以审美的眼光来看。又能够给我们带来佛法的利益啊，所以这是佛教高度的艺术教学的艺术达到最顶端。所以佛教教学跟艺术结合成一体，这里面真正充满了真善美慧比如说我们今天呢拜释迦牟尼佛，供养释迦牟尼佛释迦牟尼佛他的意思是什么？我们一定要懂如果不懂我们拜了半天那个意义就不大了。释迦牟尼，这是印度话翻成我们中国的意思叫仁人即墨仁人就是仁慈我们心要慈悲即墨呢，即墨就是清净要有禅定所以我们这个娑婆世界的众生就是缺乏了慈悲跟清净心因此释迦牟尼佛示现在这个世间为我们提出了这个教学的宗旨，就是要我们要学习仁慈，要我们学习清净我们要拜佛的时候一定要懂这个道理，所以你在拜的时候你就真正能够得到释迦牟尼佛传授给我们这个仁慈清净的这个教学的目标啦那么像我们一般呢进到这个佛教的道场那么第一个大门就所谓的三门一进去第一个大殿就叫做所谓的四天王殿那么当中呢供奉的弥勒菩萨这个弥勒菩萨我们在西方人叫做 Happy Buddha那么这个 Happy Buddha呢，你看看呢，我们一见到他，他代表什么呢？你看呢，他总是笑嘻嘻的，肚子很大这代表我们要生平等心，成喜悦之相换句话说，我们要常常保持心地的欢喜能够呢欢欢喜喜的来对待一切众生，而且心量要大，要能够包容这个就是呢我们一进到佛门第一个要学习的科目弥勒菩萨教给我们这个道理所以你看呢，都是从这个造像的这个艺术上面呢来告诉我们这些真正的真理所以佛教如果不从这个地方来体会只是盲目的来礼拜来学习这个来信仰，那这个可能会变成了宗教这很可惜其实呢世间所有的宗教的经典都是多元文化最好的教材最好的教科书那么不仅是佛法如此，所有的宗教教化众生，他教什么呢？我们师父 净空上人常常告诉我们，把它总结就是3桩事情。第一桩事情就是教导我们人跟人的关系。第二个是教导我们人跟生活环境的关系。第3桩事情呢，就是教导我们人跟天地鬼神的关系。所以这个神圣的教诲不外乎就是这3桩事情。那么这3桩事情真的明白了，我们在儒家里面讲叫做完人，完美的人生，没有一丝毫的缺陷儒家称完人。那么在佛家呢，就称佛陀。一般宗教里头呢，就称为天人。所以佛教对这个事情也讲得很详细、很明白。那么这个里面呢，我们要告诉大家，也就是这3种关系一定要处好。为什么今天我们这个世间有这么多的天灾人祸就是这3个关系没有处好你看人跟人的关系没有处好就有冲突了然后呢，冲突再提升就变成什么？变成了战争了然后呢，人跟自然的关系没有处好，就有这些天灾所以呢，这个天灾呢不是无缘无故偶然发生的，是我们造成的。我们跟大自然没有处理好现在的科学家越来越能够证明了这一点那么我们跟天地鬼神没有处好关系会遇到很多很多的麻烦他会找我们麻烦所以你看呢，佛法乃至于所有的宗教都是教导我们要好好的把这3种关系处好这样才能够真正消除世间所有的灾难也就才能够达到世界的和平那么我们中国的孔子跟老子在古籍有记载他们曾经见过面有互相研究讨论过但是他们2位呢，跟我们释迦牟尼佛没见过面。可是你看他们对整个宇宙人生，讲到宇宙人生的起源、生命的起源，他们的讲法都很一致所谓的英雄所见大略相同他们都有共同的看法你看孔老夫子在《易经》里面告诉我们，所谓的精气为物，有混为变，这是讲到生命跟一切万物的起源。而老子也给我们讲，天地与我同根，万物与我一体那么孔子跟老子讲的话虽然不一样，可是意思非常接近那么佛在《华严经》上也告诉我们，唯心所现，唯识所变说得更清楚更明白。所以中国你看禅宗里面常常讲所谓的若人识得心大地无寸土，就是讲到大乘佛法的修学最终的目的就是明心见性那么明心见性不只是禅宗乃至于整个佛法，包括大乘8个宗派密宗、净土宗，最后都是要明心见性换句话说呢，法门虽然很多最后都是殊途同归那么换句话说，整个宇宙人生明心见性以后，就是了解到整个虚空法界一切众生跟我们自己是什么关系呢？是同一体甚至比父子的关系兄弟的关系还要密切所以这就是佛法常说自他不二，生佛平等所以从这个理念让我们认识到，真正建立平等的基础我们想到我们跟佛跟菩萨是平等下面呢，我们跟一切众生是平等，乃至于蚊虫蚂蚁跟我是平等，恶鬼地狱也是平等，无有一法是不平等的所以佛门里面讲到真正的和谐，真正的和睦我们一定要懂得这个道理所以如果没有平等，就没有和平所以今天我们在这个地方一定要从我们自己本身做起不能够有一丝毫高下之心从我们自己能够对待别人恭敬谦卑能够真正对待别人能够以平等心、慈悲心、真诚心那么不但我们周遭这个环境会改变，乃至整个世界都能够带来和平 我今天就跟大家报告到此地，谢谢大家。阿弥陀佛。
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to apologize to you. I thought the speakers will divide the time equally among them, and I'm sad that Venerable who spoke on equality did not realize that there should be equal time given to the other speakers. He took 45 minutes when he should have taken 15 minutes the most. May I kindly call upon His Excellency Polo, the observer of the Holy See, the representative of His Holiness the Pope, to address us.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, on the occasion of Visakha Puja Day, such a solemn moment to the believers, to the followers of Buddha, I feel deeply honored of being invited by the Ambassador of Thailand, thank you, Madam, to present some consideration about the relation between peace and deliverance. But above all, I would like to greet everybody of you on behalf of His Holiness Benedict XVI, who charged me to give you his greetings and his support for this important occasion. There are many aspects and ways of thinking and behavior that show us the difference between Buddhism and Christianity. On the other hand, it is more than obviously that peace and deliverance are of fundamental significance to both religions. Buddhism and Christianity agree in deep value of peace and deliverance, although their ideas of it are different. But it is exactly this difference that leads us into a very productive dialogue about the relation between peace and deliverance. Our world is determined by dangerous conflicts which often seem to be religiously motivated. We know, of course, that it is dangerous and that it does not serve to peace if we understand these conflicts as only religiously motivated. People use religions to give their longing for deliverance and passionate expression. So, every religion which is able to reflect herself in the light of rationality will also be able to realize that religions are in danger of becoming containers of quite different non-religious purposes. For the moment, this is not a strong problem of Buddhism and Christianity, which are both especially endeavored to do philosophical reflections. But a religion becoming a container of non-religion purposes is a problem, for example, of some current of the political Islam or political Christianity. But I think that every one of us don't agree with fundamentalists, with fanatics. It doesn't matter which reason they have, but it's not a real reason. It is a misuse of a religion. What does that mean? It is true, as to say by a word of a critic, clash of cultures, that religions are more of an hindrance than a help for peace. Although considering the clear religiously motivated acts of Hezbollah, the answer to this question is no. Religions do not create conflicts, but they may be susceptible to intensify them. Such a process depends on a wrong definition of a relation between deliverance and peace. Thus, suicide assassin is an example for the conception of deliverance instead of peace. He is against any kind of communicating deliverance and peace. To him, they are in opposition to each other. He believes that he will have a deliverance exactly then when he is fighting violently against peace. Such an idea is absurd. Deliverance instead of peace is not worth the name because the lack of peace is the main characteristic of non-deliverance. To put deliverance instead of peace seems to be the result of tempted hearts and thoughts. So, there are quite a lot of people thinking that it would be helpful to separate the religious aspects from any kind of conflict in the world, to give way to more objectively. Such a way of argumentation can also be called peace instead of deliverance. We expect economical measures and institutions of a state under the rule of law to favor peace. That is to say that peace will not be carried through against religion, but not either that peace will be carried through by religion, but also by the term peace instead of deliverance. We do not grasp the relation between them. In this model, deliverance seems to be something private, to whom I apply myself just as I like, but it has no meaning for peace. The conception peace instead of deliverance presents a distorted picture of peace. For people without deliverance, peace means only, though welcome, break in the fighting. Peace is not a merchandise. Peace cannot be produced and exported. Wherever people believed in being able to produce substantial peace by themselves, this conception showed itself to be a misconception which causes bloodshed. To be without deliverance is in an essential way causing conflicts. Against the two problematic conceptions of first fundamentalistic deliverance instead of peace, or the second laïcistic peace instead of deliverance, I like to set a deeper understanding of the peace between peace and deliverance. On the occasion of the Vesaka Puja Day, I will call this peace by deliverance. Of importance to build peace, the papal message of the interreligious prayer meeting for peace in Assisi, the last 4 September, acknowledges our way of a cultural, political and economic character. However, in the first place, peace must be built in earth and in arts. Besides all difference between Buddhism and Christianity, it is mostly impressive to see that both religions take peace as a substantial characteristic of deliverance, and that both religions believe that there will be no peace without deliverance. The deciding factor, which in Buddhism and Christianity is reflected in a philosophical way, seems to be the estimation of relation to the world. In Buddhism, peace means that fighting for the world has come to an end. One who stops fighting not because of being exhausted, and not only for the sake of peace, but because of having grown taller than these simple aims, this one, according to your tradition, gets on close terms with deliverance. That demonstrates a deep understanding of the relation between peace and deliverance. So it is quite consistent that Buddhism directs its attention to the practice of letting go of all relations to the world. Buddhism names the appearance of all things. Christianity and its relation to peace means that the real peace for everybody and for the whole world is possible only by deliverance, to say by Jesus Christ. So the Christian idea of peace is dependent on reality, on existence of Jesus Christ, God's Son, come to the world as a Son of Man. So it seems to Buddhism that for Christianity there is still to come a long way before understanding the triviality of only coincidences. Actually, it is rather different and more complex. Christianity distinguishes between action and passivity. That is important. To do something or not to do it, it is always an activity. I turn myself toward the world or I avert myself from the world. In Buddhism, averting seems to be substantial. The behavior is right to the wise man, and in the consequence to this all objects in the world become only appearances. Christianity's concept at first glance doesn't look so different, but it is connected with a quite different philosophical thought. It is right to say that also a Christian should not be attached to the world, but Christianity is not focusing on averting from the world, but on passivity. Christianity replaces the quantitative difference between activity and non-activity by a qualitative difference that distinguishes one's activity from one which is having an effect on me. In opposite to activity, Christianity does not see too much averting, but something that happens with us, something that we never could have done by ourselves. Because of that, for Christianity, the other is not only an appearance, but he is the one through whom we will get deliverance. Christianity is event, something that happens to me, that comes to me as a gift, something I could never accept responsibility for. As it was said by the Pope in the first encyclical letter, Deus Caritas Est, God is charity. Being Christian is not a result of an ethical choice or a lofty idea, but it is encounter with an event, a person which gives life a new horizon and a decisive direction. In Buddhism, we have such a mature and deep conception of deliverance as an overcoming of the world. In Christianity, this overcoming of the world has a substantial personal dimension. Overcoming understood as an act of grace, or to mention once again the Pope, anyone who wishes to give love must also receive love as a gift. What we cannot do for ourselves, the active overcoming of the world, that is given to us by another, deliverance and peace. Although there is a substantial difference between Buddhism and Christianity, there is also a deep understanding uniting us. The world is languishing, is longing for peace, but peace is nothing we can develop in a world or by the world. Real peace is always a fruit of deliverance, Et je passe au français parce que c'est la langue que, comme italien, je maîtrise plus. À mon avis, le bouddhisme nous apprend aux chrétiens le respect de l'autre et cette attitude pour la libération. Alors, ce que je voudrais souhaiter ce matin, c'est que le colloque d'aujourd'hui continue toujours de plus en plus. Il y a le dialogue de la vie quotidienne, avec laquelle on peut partager les choses de la vie, on peut faire des écoles ensemble, on peut faire des hôpitaux ensemble, c'est le dialogue de la vie. Mais ce matin, pour moi, c'était très important d'être là, et je remercie de nouveau Madame l'ambassadeur de la Thaïlande, parce que je suis là pas seulement pour dire ce que je pense au nom de ce siège, mais pour apprendre de vous et continuer ce dialogue de connaissances pour bâtir un monde de paix, parce que tous nous sommes d'accord que la violence est toujours contre la raison et contre la religion. Merci de votre écoute.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Now we have the pleasure of presenting to you Rabbi Uri Temal, who comes from Australia. He is a very, very important leader of the Jewish faith there.
Thank you. A弥陀佛. Shalom, salam alaikum. Can I first say what a pleasure it is to be here, and I want to thank you all for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to participate in your celebration. After hearing some of the speakers before me and being with you yesterday, I'm throwing out my manuscript because it's one thing to write in advance, and then it's another thing to be inspired by all the speakers that are here. All religions have a goal of peace. So why is there conflict? Conflict comes when one group of people say that they know the only truth. Their way to God is the only way. If anybody says that, it means automatically that everybody else must be wrong. And if people think that the issue is important enough, it can cause conflict because one side tries to force the other to follow their idea of what they think is right. Now, in the Jewish tradition, the idea of dealing with this kind of conflict, with this kind of situation, comes from a view that it is not appropriate to impose one's own view on somebody else, but rather from a situation that we must all accept that there is a right of individuals, of groups, of religions, of nations to their ideas, to their culture, to their religion, and that if they don't impose it on the rest of us, that we can live side by side in peace. I must tell you that personally I hate the word tolerance. We heard it a couple of times in our speeches, and I must immediately tell you that I dislike the word tolerance, because tolerance means that somebody puts up. If somebody tolerates me, they put up with me. In the English language, when you speak of people who have a lot of pain, sometimes the doctor will tell them, you've got to tolerate some pain, but if it gets too bad, we'll give you a tablet. We'll give you a pill. Tolerance is not a good concept. It is very fickle. I think what we need to get to in the world, instead of tolerance, is acceptance and valuing. We need to accept that everybody has the right to their own identity. And we need to value the contribution everybody can make, provided that this contribution is coming from a motivation of wanting to make a positive and constructive contribution to the ability of people to live with each other. I don't want people to put up with each other. I want people to accept each other and to collaborate with each other. But let me return for a moment to the Jewish ideas of peace. Now, for those of you who know the Bible well, will know that Judaism is not a pacifist religion. Judaism is a realistic religion. It is a realistic system of thought, and it comes from the reality that there is something in human nature which from time to time can cause conflict. Our religion tells us that the way we were created and the way our relationship is to God is that God has given us free choice. God has given us the ability to choose, the ability to use our brains, our emotions, our skills to choose how we conduct our lives. And there are passages in the Bible which tell us that we can choose good or we can choose bad. It is up to us. To be able to make the choice, we have to learn and we have to understand what is required of us. And to use one of our psalms in chapter 34 of the book of Psalms, we are told that what is required of us is to keep our tongues from speaking evil, that is, not to say bad things about other people or other groups, not to lie, and to seek peace and to pursue it. Now, that is a quote which comes from many other passages in the Bible which try to tell us that peace isn't something that comes to us when we sit back and wait for it, maybe do nothing to hurt other people, and then there will be peace. Our tradition tells us that peace comes if we seek actively ways to find it, or to find answers of how to achieve it, and to pursue it, to continue to build on it. That is the That is the principle on which Judaism is based. But as I said, the Bible, biblical history, is full of wars. So, because there's a recognition that there can be conflict and there can be war, the Bible, in the book of Deuteronomy particularly, tells us how to behave in such a situation. And it tells us a number of principles. It tells us, first of all, that there are two wars, two types of wars. One is a war of choice, and one is a war of duty. The war of choice is when people choose to conduct a war, when people choose violence over peaceful means. And that is not desirable. In the Jewish tradition, before the exile of the Jews from Israel by the Romans in the year 70, there was a national leadership which was called the Sanhedrin, which had 71 members. And a war of choice, let's say in order to expand borders, a war of choice could only be conducted if all the members, all the leaders agreed together that they could conduct a war. Otherwise it wasn't permitted. Now, the war of duty is another matter. The war of duty is about survival. Judaism recognizes the ability and the right of people for self-defense. It recognizes the ability for people to defend their lives, their property, their land. And in such a situation, we are allowed to fight in order to defend ourselves. But our tradition tells us that there should be, even in that situation, ethical principles which govern our behavior. For example, again, the book of Deuteronomy tells us that if one has to fight a war, even if it's a war of self-defense, and one comes to another city and has to besiege it, that before the act of war takes place, there has to be made an offer of peace. And if the peace is rejected, then maybe there is a need to fight. But even then, if there is a siege, it tells us that the siege must only be from three sides of the city. One side must be left open so that people can escape if they want to. The book of Deuteronomy tells us that there must not be futile destruction. It tells specifically that trees must not be destroyed if they are trees which can be used for food. But even then, concerning other trees or other things, there should never be wanton destruction. There is a law, in fact, derived from that in Jewish ritual, which becomes a law which says never destroy anything unless you absolutely have to. We are told to be humanitarian in victory, not to torture or to kill people if it's not necessary. We are told, and this is a very important principle today, which constantly, unfortunately, a lot of people have forgotten, that we should never use illegal means in order to uphold the law. We should never use illegal means in order to uphold the law. Right now we have many examples of that. Even as in our news today, yesterday, there are discussions about whether it is legitimate in the interest of security to torture people. So according to this principle, it is never allowed to use illegal means to uphold the law. And finally, never to rejoice, never to be happy about the downfall of an enemy. It is okay to celebrate that in a war situation, soldiers who have fought in the war are alive. They may want to celebrate their own lives, but they should never celebrate the fact that they have beaten or killed an enemy, another life. The basic idea in Judaism about creation is that God created us, God created life for us to want to live, and for us to want to live with others, not to take others' lives and not to destroy our own. Now, the ultimate idea of peace in Judaism comes from our prophets, from the prophet Isaiah, from the prophet Micah. And both prophets talk about what is the ideal situation of peace. And they describe the ideal situation of peace as the end of days, the end of the history as we know it, and a new era will begin. And that absolute peace, which we call in the Abrahamic religions messianic times, they tell us is a time at which people will all go and try to learn about God. People will beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. In other words, they will turn instruments of war into machines of peace. Nation will not lift up sword against nation, neither will they learn war anymore. But every person shall sit under their vine and under their fig tree, and none shall make them afraid. And I think that last bit from the prophecies of Isaiah and Micah is so important, is a key to the goal that we all need to reach. That is the goal of being able to be in a peaceful situation which is defined by the fact that we have no fear of each other. In Hebrew, the word for peace is shalom. Same language family as in Arabic, salam. In the Semitic languages, all words come from a three-letter root. And the root word for shalom or salam means complete, whole. We always translate it as peace. We use it as a greeting. When we greet each other, we say shalom or salam. What we are saying is, may peace be upon you. May you be at peace. But really, the word comes from the root for complete, whole, total. In other words, what we are saying is that the world cannot be whole, cannot be well, cannot be complete, just as the individual can't, if we have no peace. The concept of peace in this language and word is that peace equates to wholeness, to completion. So finally, let me say where I think we need to go. I don't think that religions cause wars. I think people cause wars. And people cause wars because they may not correctly understand even their own religion or completely represent correctly their own religion. And that is true especially for extremists in all religions who may be using religion as has already been said, using religion for their own purposes and thereby misusing it. I think what we need to do is we need to get back to what I call the ABC of humanity. So A for me stands for accepting, as I've already said, accepting our common humanity whilst respecting our diversity. We are diverse, and that's how we were created. If God would have wanted to create us all looking equal, all thinking equal, all being the same, then we would have been created like that, and everybody would look alike, everybody would think alike, everybody would be the same. The fact that we were created as diverse as we are, every individual is different from every individual else, as we know from DNA. That fact means that there is a purpose here to force us to use our ability to choose to live together. So if we accept life, if we accept humanity, we need to accept also that it is our duty to respect diversity and to use the energy which comes from our diversity for the positive development of our world. B for me stands for blessing. The blessing of the efforts which come from working for peace. The blessing which comes from meeting and sharing with other people who work for peace. The blessing which comes from the efforts which we can make together to find solution to the world's problems. The blessing that comes when we succeed, like for instance in this forum, to bring together people of different backgrounds to work for a common purpose, and that purpose is to make a holistic world. And the C for me stands for creativity. We need to create a genuine alternative to conflict. We need to create genuine opportunities for finding paths that are constructive and not destructive. We need to find creative ways of establishing truly a culture of peace, that is, a universally accepted behavior that peace is better than war and that living is better than dying, unless it's in the natural course of events, but that we should all create opportunities for everybody to live, and to live in peace and harmony. Harmony is the attitude which should guide us, and which I guess is the energy that drives us towards peace. If we think of harmony, we think of maybe a choir. A good choir has many different voices. Each voice is unique. But the idea is to blend together these voices in such a way that it creates an expression of beauty and of affirmation of life. To blend the voices together to sing the same song, to follow the guidance of the conductor. I think that the conductor in our world, from my perspective, the conductor is the God who created us, and the song which we all need to sing in harmony is peace. Shalom.